Sri Shailan Radhakrishna asked, there is right side steering in India and left in Canada. Do you think it is difficult to adjust with the different steering wheel sides during the initial few days? Okay, so this question is regarding the cost. What will be the total cost to get a driving license in Canada? This includes costs like maybe practice lessons, theory exams, and this question was asked by our viewer, Nil Rukshi Robert.
Hello everyone, this is Harminder Suri, and today I have Dumpty with me from the channel Humpty Dumpty 2, and they have a channel around helping people settle down in Canada and helping them with their permanent residence process. So they did the entire application by themselves, and they are helping people do the application by themselves without hiring anyone for the application. So you're going to find a lot of content on their channel. So feel free to click on the link below and see what content they have to share. I'm sure you'll find a lot of value through their videos. So without further ado, let's talk to Dumpty from Humpty Dumpty. She wanted to ask me a few questions around driving instruction. So let's take a look.
Hey, hi Harminder. Thank you so much for having me on your channel and doing this video with us. There are a lot of our viewers who are asking us questions on driving license, how easy or difficult it is. Like, I see that people have their fear in their mind that, how easy or difficult it is to get a license when they move to a new country altogether. So many thank you for doing this video with us. And I have a bunch of questions for you today that I'm going to ask. And we hope we get answers from you and it's going to be really helpful for the audience.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
So Harminder, I'm going to ask you the most common question which a lot of our viewers asked us, and the question is, how fast can a new immigrant get license if he or she is carrying the license extract from their home country? And this question was asked by Jatin Malik and Sri Shailan Radhakrishnan and many others as well.
Okay, That's a very good question. The thing is, right, if you're bringing an extract from your home country, and if you have more than 2 years of experience, then you don't have to wait too long. You can go take your written test. For a written test, you don't have to take an appointment. You can just walk in and do the written test. And right after the written test, if the dates are available, then you can do the driving test right away. Now, depending on how much experience you have, they will either book you for a G2 test or a G test.
Okay. Yeah, this is quite helpful. I think a lot of people fear that, it takes a lot of months to get the license and, even take the first test. But yeah, this is helpful.
That's right.
Yeah, this is going to be really helpful. Okay, moving on.
That's right.
Yeah. Moving on to the next question. If anyone has international driving license already, is it still mandatory to have Canadian driving license to drive in Canada? And this question was asked by Rajal Lakshmi Raut.
Okay, that's another good question. Well, the thing is, if you're coming here to Canada for a short period of time, you don't need to have a Canadian license. You can drive on an international license. Make sure you get the international license when you come to Canada. However, if you're settling here, then you might as well get a Canadian license, because on an international license, you can only drive for 90 days. Okay, so it's good for visitors, but not for permanent residents, right? So yeah, that's the thing.
Sure. Okay. Then my next question to you is, am I eligible to drive a rented car or a friend's car for initial few months after landing, considering I'm coming on a PR?
That's right. So this is also related to the question we answered earlier. So yes, you could drive a car if you have an international driver's license. You're allowed to drive it for 90 days. Renting a car would be a good idea. A lot of people don't like to borrow other people's cars because of the high insurance cost, right? So you don't want to get into trouble, or you don't want to put your friends or relatives in trouble just in case something happens. So yes, renting is always an option when you have an international driver's license.
So assume if I don't have any international driving license and I have this license only from India. So am I still eligible to drive a car, maybe a rented car for 90 days? Will that work?
Yes, the rental companies will allow you to drive on that license, the international license. Oh, sorry, just a regular license. I'm not sure about how many days it would be for. I think it's 30 days or 60 days. Your audience might have to do some research on that, but I'm sure that they will allow you to do that.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people come on like tourist visa just to visit a country, right? And they rent out a car. So yeah, would be like not 90 days, can be less, but yeah, some days should be allowed.
That's right, yes.
Now, this question is regarding the documents. What are the documents which are to be brought from the home country to apply for the license in Canada?
Okay, so to apply for a license, you don't need anything more than your driver's license. These days you get card licenses, right? So you need to bring your original license and the driving license extract, if you can possibly bring that, right? So these two things would be enough.
Right. And you would be knowing, as you're from India as well. So I know that in India we get that old paper format license.
That's
so I'm
right.
sure that's not going to work. Like you already mentioned that you need that latest smart card, right?
Yes. So as long as the license is original, right? They're going to be okay with it. Here's the thing, right? So some of the drive test centers are a little skeptical about this. And this used to happen a lot with some of my students. Some people would go to a drive test center, and that drive test center would look at the license and they would say, you know what, we are not convinced that the license is original. And then they would go to another drive test center and they would accept it. So, if one drive test center doesn't accept it, you'll have to keep trying. So, there's one drive test center, I think it's a Service Ontario at 777 Bay Street. You can mention that in the description below, right? Most of my students used to have a success there. They would get refused at the Guelph Drive Test Center, Brampton Drive Test Center, and they would go to 777 Bay Street, and they would accept their documents. So you'll have to keep trying.
Yeah, I think... yeah, sure. But I think the best approach here would be get your old paper-based driving license converted into the chip-based.
That's a very good point. I was going to mention that.
It's
yes.
valid everywhere, and you really don't.
That's right. That would save you a lot of inconvenience. If you could get that done, yes, do it by all means. If not, then, you'll have to keep trying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So this question is regarding the cost. What will be the total cost to get a driving license in Canada? This includes costs like maybe practice lessons, theory exams. And this question was asked by our viewer, Nil Rukshi Robert.
Very good. Again, a good question. The government fee is around, I would say it's $95 for the written test, the knowledge test. I don't know if they have increased the amount recently. So that's $95, and then another $55 roughly for the G2 test, and then it's an $89 fee for the G test. So put together, I'm guessing it's around $200. It's less than $250 towards the government fee. Now, in terms of practice lessons, well, that completely depends on how soon you're able to grasp the knowledge shared by instructors, right? And that is why, I used to recommend my students watching videos, right? So that, you don't have to spend too much money on driving lessons. Driving lessons are expensive depending on the area you're in. They could be anywhere between $30 to $50 or sometimes $80 a lesson, a 1 hour lesson. So that really depends on, and depends on how many lessons you would end up taking. On an average, someone who has an experience of, let's say, 2 to 3 years in India, they would take around 6 to 7 lessons, and that should be enough, right? And then keep in mind the cost that you have to pay for renting the car, right? So that could be anywhere between $150 to $200 for depending on where you're going, right? So yeah, roughly I would say, around spare $600 to $700 for the license.
And is it really important to take the driving test? Because if somebody has like 10 years of experience driving in India, or maybe more than 5 years, will it be not fine to directly go and take all the tests, for example, G1, G2?
Well, you have to do the knowledge test. That's a mandate. And you can skip the G2 test if you have more than 2 years of experience. That is when you bring your extract. But, keep in mind, you have to pass the G test in the first attempt. And if you fail that, you'll have to go back to G2. Okay, so that's a little tricky part there. So yes, yes, you have to do at least 2 tests to be able to convert. For some countries, you're able to just convert your licenses. From the UK, I know some of my students did that. They were just able to convert their license, exchange their license. Some countries allow it, but for India, for sure, you have to do the tests.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you already mentioned about, if somebody comes from India, they have to really get their new license created in Canada. So this question is related to that. Sri Shailan Radhakrishna asked, there is right side steering in India and left in Canada. Do you think it is difficult to adjust with the different steering wheel sides during the initial few days?
A lot of people ask me this question, but let me tell you this. It just takes 5 minutes to get used to it. When I sat in the car for the first time, I also had this question in my mind, will I be able to pull it off? And after 5 minutes, it didn't even feel like I was sitting on the left side of the car, driving on the other side of the road. So it's just, just a mental block. But it's not that difficult to switch.
Yeah, right. It's just a myth. Once you are in the car and you have steering wheel in your hand, then you're good to go, right?
It's easier. It's actually easier than driving in Canada because this is an automatic car, right? So we're used to driving with 3 pedals, a stick shift car, but these cars are much easier to drive. And, given the road conditions and clear roads, you're going to enjoy driving here.
Yeah, I think this is going to give a lot of relief to a lot of viewers
Absolutely.
who are already scared, with this left side and right hand side steering driving car.
Right.
Thank you for that. Now moving on. Okay, so this is a quite interesting question, and even when I read this question from the viewer, I quite got interested into this. So the question is, are there any medical restrictions to get the DL? It could be anything like neurological disorder or something. And this question was asked by BP12347. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of medical requirements, most people would not have any difficulty getting the license, but yes, they do. You look at the medical conditions. In fact, when you go for your road test, they ask you if you're going through any medical conditions. Would you be able to do the test properly? So this is a part of the licensing procedure. So not everyone has to do a medical exam. When you go for your written test, they're just going to check your test your vision and your knowledge, right? Other than that, they're going to ask you if you have any medical conditions, and if you do have medical conditions, probably they're going to base it off of that, right? So, but I've never heard anyone not being able to get a license because of a minor condition, a medical condition. But it depends from case to case.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, I think you've broadly spoken about this when you were talking about the cost structure of getting a license, but let's take this question differently. It says that what are the different classes of license specifically in Ontario?
Well, there are many types of licenses, right? For a bus, we have a different license. For a car, we have a different license. For a truck, we have a different license. Even for a motorcycle, we have a different license. Unlike in India, where you just get one license and you can drive a car with that. You can drive a taxi with that. You can probably drive a bus. If you have a bus license, then you can drive most of the vehicles, right? For a motorcycle, you don't need a separate license. But here, there are different licenses. And talking specifically about cars, there are three stages that you have to pass. So number one is the knowledge test, which is called the G1 test. Number two is the city test, so you don't go on the highway. That's called the G2 test. And the final one is the G test, where you're asked to go on the highway during the road test. So that those are the types of licenses for a car. And for a truck, you have to get, there are two different types of licenses. There's a DZ and there's an AZ. So AZ is what most people want to get because, with that, they can drive a tractor trailer. They can go to the US or, long haul trucks, basically. DZ is basically to drive inside within Canada. And for a motorcycle, there's again M1, M2, and M license. Right. So, yeah. So those are the few different types of licenses.
Oh, that's actually wonderful to hear. I didn't even know there are so many classes of licenses in Canada.
Oh, yes.
M1 and then AZ, and then I just knew about G1, G2. Yeah. But thanks for sharing that, Harminder.
My pleasure.